strangest year on the face of the planet, at least in our lifetime. And so we appreciate you making the time, although I know everybody is probably very zoomed out. So thank you for tuning in with us. My name is Christina Parle, and I serve as the Director of Chapter Services and Conduct for Zeta Beta Tau. I've been with the organization for a little over a year and a half, and before that worked on a campus. So what I do on staff is I serve as a general support person for all of our chapters if they need anything in our campuses. I also hang out with the chapters that maybe get in trouble every once in a while. I also write all of the major educational curriculum. And so those are the big three things that I do, but I'm going to hand it over to Anthony and let Anthony introduce himself as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Christina. My name is Anthony. I am the Assistant Director of Growth with ZBT. I usually work with expansions and the recruitment side, but as Christina said, it's been a wild year, so I'm kind of working with as many people as I can. I was a Brotherhood Development Director for my undergraduate chapter at Cal Poly, the AWU chapter. So I'm excited to be here, listen in, and help as I can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Anthony, for being here. And thank you for all the folks who are dropping stuff. Looks like we have Monmouth here, Cal Poly, Boulder. So thank you all. We've got Ontario here. Shout out to Canada, and a few others joining us. So thank you all. First, we want to just give a big thank you to the ZBT Foundation. They are who make these programs possible and who help us fund the ZBT from Home program. So I want to make sure that we do a big shout out to them. Next, I want to just talk quickly about expectations for tonight. So I hate just talking at people for an hour. So if you've got questions, if you have thoughts, let us know. Feel free to chat Anthony or I directly, or to put it in the chat to everyone. No question is a bad question. Everything that we are experiencing right now is new. And so please, please, please ask away. If you have the questions, somebody else probably does too. We ask that you're present. I know some of you might be out and about and doing other things, but be as present as possible with us this evening. And then share your good ideas. If you're like, Christina, I've got this awesome thing that our chapter is doing, please let us know. But also feel free to share things that you've tried that maybe didn't go well, that you're like, hey, maybe don't try that because it fell on its face, right? And then the last thing that I ask is that you don't say, that won't work for us. The reality is that there are some things that might not work for your chapter, but give it a try, right? And it might need to be modified because of the size of your chapter, or you're not housed, or whatever it may be, but don't just start from, that won't work for us. Let's figure out a way to modify it so it does. So in the spirit of being participatory, I'm gonna ask again that everybody drop in the chat, what are the challenges, concerns, or worries that you have? So we will take just a second to kind of be reflective. What are the challenges, concerns, worries that you have, whether it's COVID related, or right now maybe your campus has an abolished Greek life going on, and you have, your hemorrhaging brothers, whatever it is, let us know. What are the challenges, concerns, worries that you have going into the fall term as we feel so quickly approaching? So we'll give you all a second. We know it takes time to type, so we'll give you a second to drop your thoughts. And hello to the Delta Pi chapter and the Beta Lambda chapter. I just noticed your comment. Okay, so we have one of engaging all brothers in a mostly virtual setting, as getting everyone together will probably not happen. Absolutely, love that. Thank you, Andy. We'll wait for another thought or two. So if you had the ability, drop your thoughts in the chat. We'd love to hear it. And just as a reminder, this evening is really about talking about the BDD role. So we will kind of do a quick overview of what the BDD role is. Would love to hear if you're like, wait, I didn't know that was a part of my role. That would be helpful for us to know. Our AWU brother says, currently Cal Poly has a very anti-Greek life climate where we are working to implement many changes members of the community want to see. With a virtual setting not being able to fully get to know the brothers would make it difficult. Absolutely. Thank you, Zachary. Okay, keep dropping your thoughts. We've got Owen saying, my chapter is already tiny, down to 11 or 12 brothers, and Monmouth is being very strict with COVID. being able to hold events with the actives is going to be next to impossible already, let alone recruitment. Absolutely. Thank you, Owen. And I'm sure others feel those same sentiments. So let's talk really quickly, high level, what your role is as a BDD. And for those who are maybe here filling in for your BDD, make sure to take notes here so you can make sure he knows what he needs to be doing. So first is overseeing the Journey program. If you have questions about the Journey program, please feel free to shoot them in the chat or directly to me or Anthony. We're happy to answer those questions toward the end. But you oversee the Journey program and you oversee the provost. If your chapter does not have a provost, unless it's because you have small numbers, you're missing a role. So let's make sure that you're getting a provost position filled. Of course, if you have Owen shared 11 to 12 brothers, maybe the BDD is doing both roles, which is totally fine. But making sure that somebody is fulfilling those duties. Also, the BDD is responsible for educational development for all of the brothers, all 4 years. So you're helping figure out what is the best program for freshmen, for sophomores, for juniors, for seniors, right? And how does it change? Because we have the misconception that the same stuff that we're doing for the freshmen works for the seniors, and that's why your seniors quit. That's why your juniors stop out, because you're trying to sell a freshman experience to somebody who's over 21, able to get in the bars and is ready to go live his best life, right? So how are you helping him prep for interviews and real life and, taxes and buying a house or whatever, right? How are we helping them figure out how to do big kid, adultier adult things, as I like to say? Then you're also responsible for the development of the Brotherhood, right? And that in conjunction with that is the Brotherhood Retreat. A lot of people always say to me, Christina, we don't have the money to do a Brotherhood Retreat. And I say, cool. Get a room on campus that's free, hang out with the dudes for the day, and go through the curriculum that we ask you to do, and then do something fun as well. Whatever you all have the capacity to cover, pay for, do that, as long as it also includes some of the content that we ask you to cover for the Brotherhood Retreat. And always happy to talk about modifications. We are very, very flexible about the Journey. So if you're like, we can't do this thing, let's talk about it. What can we do in place of it? Next, y'all, is the BDD assist in SBRB process. A lot of our BDDs are not doing this. And so what this means is that if Brother Joe gets 20 votes and that's 30% of your chapter, the BDD really needs to be following up with Brother Joe after SBRB to say, let's talk about why you got so many votes. Maybe you didn't reach that 50% threshold, but let's talk about kind of what's causing folks to vote you out through SBRB. And then lastly, the BDD plans and executes all ritual events, right? And so we're happy to talk more about that. To Andy's point and a couple of other points about fall semester, y'all, your main goal for the fall is to provide value. Socials are out. Most large in-person events are out. A lot of community service is out that is typically in person. A lot of our philanthropic events are out because they typically have high capacity. So we have to figure out how to provide value virtually or physically distance. You probably won't hear me say socially distant because I don't think that that's a great term. I think they should have called it physically distance, but here we are. So the goal really is to provide value, and that's what we need to be focused on. So let's talk a little bit about some virtual events that you can be doing. So educational programming is still one of them. We can 100% acknowledge again that everybody's kind of zoomed out or virtualed out, whatever platform you use, but educational programming is still particularly important. Whether that's how do I get connected to resources on campus because now I'm not on campus, all the way to what we talked about earlier about taxes, buying a house, buying a car, whatever that may be, and engaging your alumni brothers, if you have a connection with them, to do some of that educational programming. Anthony and I and all of the headquarters staff can do educational programming for you. You can lean into your local resources as well as your campus-based resources. Some people will tell us, oh, our campus-based resources aren't great. That's fine. I just told you about 3 other places that you could go for people to lead your educational programming. So let us know what you all need, and we're happy to help get you connected. So when we're thinking about educational programming, think about the 6 precepts. Think about the credo. How can you do educational programming that goes toward that? But also think about what's been happening over the last few months related to injustice, and how can you be doing education on that? If you are not aware, ZBT has been doing a lot of programming on social responsibility. We've had a program about language. We've had a program about social responsibility. We've had a program about bias, a program about oppression. Those are all videos that you could send out to your guys or that you all could watch together. They're all on the ZBT YouTube channel, along with every other ZBT from home program that we've had. So you can go back and utilize those. And you don't even have to do anything. You literally just click a button, push start, and you keep moving. Next is mental health check-ins or vibe checks. We literally have a chapter that has a director of vibes, which I wish I could have been in that chapter, but doing those with your guys, right? Like, let's check in with each other, especially if we're still physically distanced. Let's check in to see how people are doing. And if they're not doing well, how can we get them connected to resources, either in their local community if they're at home, or in the campus community if they're on campus or nearby. Next is video games. I don't have to tell most of y'all about this, but most of your Brotherhood, right, is interested in video games, or some of them are, maybe none of them are. You don't have to use this option if they aren't. I don't like video games, but here we are. But how can you do those things together? How can you do those things together from different places and spaces? Doing virtual meals together. Anthony and I are the king and queen of saying, let's do lunch together, let's get together and just eat and not focus on work for 1 hour while we talk about other stuff. And so really trying to figure out how you can say, hey, at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, or if you want to do 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, so it kind of evens it out, or maybe a little bit later in the day, we're going to get together and have an early lunch or a late lunch. And so we want everybody to come together, or we're going to do dinner and a drink or whatever we're going to do. So thinking about how you can do those virtual meals together. Also virtual competitions, whatever that looks like for you, whether it is specific to like fundraising competitions or just like stuff that you find on the internet competitions, or who can have the longest Snapchat streak, or who can, whatever it may be, but having those competitions. We also have seen, and Owen, feel free to drop in the chat. I know that you all did like a ZBT Kahoot, like trivia. Feeling free to do that kind of thing, right? Kahoot is a kind of a quiz type system for those of you who aren't familiar that has a competitive nature. So feeling free to do those kinds of things as well. And then Jackbox, Anthony, you are much more the Jackbox pro. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. So Jackbox is an online game which you are able to utilize your guys' cell phones and play games in which you're trying to fool each other. You're trying to find the right answer. There's trivia. There's always a theme to every single game that can get people involved. And you can really, it's open response. You get to really find out who the chapter clown is. Or there's one game that I'm very obsessed with right now called Role Models. And you can tell which person in your friends group everyone really rags on. And anybody can play the game through the internet. It's very, very easy. Watch some of the stuff on YouTube. I love playing it. I play it with my friends constantly. And it's a great way to even get to know each other. Some of these activities are really building not just that brotherhood aspect, but even for some of these for brothers that might be in your chapter soon, there's potential new brothers as well.
And Owen, thank you for dropping your comment in the chat about the Kahoot being popular and doing Jackbox games as a chapter and that being great. So would love for you to drop more thoughts in the chat if there's anything that you think would be helpful. I do want to acknowledge the comment in the chat from Aaron about like kind of the uncertainty from the campus and nobody really knowing what the hell they're doing, to be quite honest, right? And I think for us as staff, what we would prefer that you do is just prepare for virtual stuff. Because even if your campus is like, yeah, we're going back, we're going to be in person, there's a potential, like there's a likelihood that the fall is going to look similar to the spring, where it was like, oh, we came back, now peace out, see y'all later, right? So really thinking about planning for virtual, even if your campus isn't automatically telling you that right now. So thank you, Anthony, for sharing a little bit about that. We also have like the outdoor games, as long as they can be physically distanced, thinking about relay races, those kinds of things, not things like football, right? Where you're like touching each other a lot. So thinking about how you can do outdoor things that are more apart. We've seen chapters doing virtual workouts together, like, hey, Anthony and I are going to call each other at whatever time we wake up or right before bed, and, do a workout together. Maybe you do a midday workout, and maybe you have like a Zoom, group that does it. Maybe you break out and there's an arm room and a leg room and a back room where somebody's like leading the different types of workouts. So getting creative with that kind of stuff. We also have seen chapters talking about doing like an esports intramural league, either within their chapter or with their IFC. So like, how can you get, a couple of ZBT esports intramural teams together against like the Phi Delta on your campus or SAEs or whoever's on your campus, and really pushing your IFC to lead that kind of stuff. If you're a Netflix human, watch parties. How can you get together and watch movies or TV shows or whatever? And then what we have seen when it comes to chapter meetings is that some chapters are having more success having chapter meeting, just less frequently. So instead of saying we're going to meet every Monday at 7, it's like every other Monday we're going to meet at 7 p.m. We're going to meet for an hour, because people then have more to look forward to, rather than we're going to meet at 7 p.m., rush through everything because we will see you next week and it's done in 15 minutes. Whereas if you meet more intentionally bi-weekly or every 3 weeks, there's more to cover. There's more time to spend together. And typically our chapters are saying, okay, the meeting's over, but everybody can hang out. Let's just talk and, just chit chat about what's going on in our lives. So thinking about doing those just a little less frequently, but still making sure that you're getting the business and everything done. And then how can you do virtual philanthropy? Our University of Southern California chapter has been doing some philanthropy around Black Lives Matter, around Children's Miracle Network. And so if you're wondering how do we do that, we're happy to get you connected to chapters that have been. And then in general, I think thinking about how can we give back, that we can do in a virtual space, right? Whether that's contact tracing or something that is like newly developed in this space, but thinking about how can you give back to the community that isn't just financial, right? Because not all brothers have the capacity to give money or raise money, especially when they're back in their local communities rather than being in their campus community where they may have more contacts to connect with. But thinking about how can you give back of your time and not just your money. I think my friend Tyler might be on the phone from FDU Madison, but one of the things I think that FDU Madison had shared with me is just focus on having fun. The business stuff needs to happen, but building brotherhood is what is most important right now, right? We want you all to focus on really getting to know each other. What an opportunity to slow down and do that. And so really thinking about creating that space to get to know each other more and not pushing your boundaries. If you're trying to do something that's like huge and like super complex, that's cool if you feel like you can pull it off. But if you can't, don't feel like you have to push your boundaries just to like do something out of the ordinary. Also, in this time of COVID, and like Erin said, not knowing what your campus is doing or the abolish Greek life pages, whatever, not focusing on what is not in your control. Like focus on what you can control. Don't play the what if game all the time, and really think about that. And then try to do things that you all did pre-COVID, but virtually or physically distance. And so really thinking about those pieces as well. So let's talk, if you have thoughts, concerns, worries about anything that we shared, if you're like, how the heck are we going to make that work? Or, hey, Christina, we love that idea. Anthony, we loved what you talked about with Jackbox. Feel free to drop it in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Let's talk a little bit about in-person brotherhood events that you can be doing. And so again, mental health check-ins, vibe checks, video games, outdoor and indoor games, while also always listening to what the restrictions are in your campus and in the local area, right? So making sure that you're not violating those policies, because y'all, I do this fun stuff, but I also do the conduct side, and our conduct people on campuses are not going to be playing with us this year. We have had campuses say, if you have a party or you're not following the guidelines, you're done, right? And so I think we're seeing some serious heat coming from our campuses about this particular piece of following the restrictions that they have in place. Another thing that we are highly recommending is staggering things out if you're going to do stuff in person. So if it's recruitment, how can you say 10 brothers, 10 P&Ms at 5, 10 brothers, 10 P&Ms at 6, 10 brothers, 10 P&Ms at 7? The reality is you're not going to get to meet everyone like you're used to. So how can you figure out how to do it this way, right? How can you stagger out the timing in order to make sure that you're still getting to do the things that you want to do? And so same thing though with events, with games, how can you stagger those things out in order to accommodate those restrictions? Doing meals and doing them physically distanced if you have to, doing them at a park, doing them outside if you have a house, doing them outside of the house. How can you, if you have a grill, do some barbecue, do hamburgers and hot dogs, whatever, but something to be able to keep people engaged that is also safe and healthy. And then lastly, any events, right, that you would typically do that meet those campus and local restrictions. So again, drop your thoughts, drop any questions that you might have. I did see a comment come through about a chapter going to be utilizing Twitch, which allows a free streaming platform that allows all brothers to easily interact. Friend, if you're willing to come off camera and talk about what Twitch is, love to hear it. I won't put you on the spot. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead. Tell us.
Thank you guys for hosting tonight. It's super informational and super helpful. But the thing we kind of focused on was one for philanthropy. We talked about doing like a 24-hour Twitch stream, which is just like most college students watch it. It's like for video games, so viewers can watch a streamer play a video game. But you can also do it for like movies and sports, and it has a chat function, which is super simple to interact with. And so the person streaming can be constantly reading chat and stuff like that.
Thank you, Zachary. That's super helpful. And Zachary is at our Cal Poly chapter, just for those who don't know what AMU is. But they are also our runner winners this year. So congratulations, Zachary, and to all of your chapter. So thinking about the different platforms that you can be using, I have heard other chapters talk about using Slack or Discord or different ways to interact with each other, that you can kind of be talking about a bunch of different things. I know we have several chapters that have a lot of different group me's based on different topics, right? So the video game group me, the workout group me, the talk about academics or whatever it may be. So thinking about that. Everybody's listen, Christina, nobody wants to be on any more videos. Stop telling us about the virtual stuff. Okay. Well, it's the reality now, friends. So let's talk about how to make our meetings more engaging. First and foremost, if you're not familiar with some of the functions of the platforms that you're using, that's step one. Let's figure out what are the engagement tools for the platforms that we're using. Specifically though, for Zoom, because that's what we're typically on, that's what most of our students are typically using. But if you're not, happy to talk, if you're using WebEx or Teams or GoToMeeting or something else, just let us know and we're happy to kind of figure out what computes for those platforms. But polls, y'all, remember when I said that I am not tech savvy at all and I literally don't know anything, and Anthony can attest to this? I have figured out the poll. It's relatively simple. You just go in, type in what your question is, what are the answers they can give, and share it out. And then, of course, you can share the results. I think polls are super fun and super quick. So thinking about using polls throughout, if you're doing an educational program, how can you do it throughout? But if you're just wanting to figure out different things or do a get to know each other, you could use polls for that as well. And then thinking about Zoom breakouts. So if you're not familiar, Anthony or I, oh, sorry, y'all. Come here. Anthony or I, hold on. My dog's getting
we can help you out with those as well. That's Nugget. This is our team mascot. Nugget doesn't like having the attention off of him for a long time, so.
But I was saying that Anthony and I are more than welcome to show you how to use the breakouts. The breakouts can be used for all of those different things that we've been discussing in relation to if you want to break out and talk about different topics, if you want to break out and give different people opportunities to get to know each other. Also, breakouts are a good format for using during recruitment as well. Anthony, I'm going to let you take over the chat function and Q&A.
Awesome. Yeah, and especially with those breakouts, if you guys don't know how to use them, definitely ask us to walk you through it, because when recruitment comes around, that is a great way for individual brothers to have those conversations. Chat function, as Christina is using, and what we talk about being really a godsend, is just asking people to drop things into the chat. With that, you're getting them more engaged. You're having them really be involved and show that they're present. And for those that are not present, I know earlier today I was helping out with a leadership conference. Somebody who just wasn't replying. So I actually texted them and I was like, hey, can you return back to your computer? Because I knew for a fact they turned off their video, they were on mute for a long time. So it was a great way for me to reconnect with one of the attendees. Also, question and answer. I mean, this is a main point of a lot of the Zoom calls that a lot of people come to us as an like educational program wise, or if you are doing an alumni panel via Zoom, that's a great way to make sure that people are not just popping in and muting themselves and disrupting everything. As well as in chapter meetings. We know, and especially in my undergraduate experience, I've learned it is hard to make undergraduates be quiet for a long amount of time. So this is a great way for them to kind of get on that speakers list in a way so that you guys can really monitor what's going on and having that question and answer time when it's time for questions and answers.
I think the really important thing about, and Anthony, thank you for that, but the important thing about the chat function, y'all, is it gives people an opportunity to talk without disrupting the person who is leading. So if they have questions and they don't want to forget what they are, or they want to drop a thought, or they have a suggestion, it's an easy way for them to connect with everyone. So what I will say is this is the content that we had prepared because this is a roundtable. So we wanted to do half content for you all and then have questions for this group to discuss. So again, feel free to come live on your video if you want. You don't have to, but we wanted to kind of just start with a simple question, which is, what experiences do you all plan or want to provide this upcoming term? So feel free to drop it in the chat or feel free to unmute and talk about it, but what experiences do you plan or want to provide this upcoming term, whether you have all of the plans for it yet, or it's just like an idea. We'd love to hear it. We'll give you all a second to kind of type or unmute and let us know. Oh, and I probably should have said this on the front end. I'm really, really good with silence. As you can imagine, I do conduct. So I do a lot of investigation. So I will give you all a few seconds. And if you don't have any thoughts, we're happy to kind of keep going on, but we do want to create space for you all to share how you're feeling or what you're thinking. So. Owen shared our overall education has been lacking, so I'd like to focus on educational stuff while social things are impractical. Yeah. Owen, I love that you said that because although the social environment does provide value to the collegiate experience, really you're there to learn, right? You're there to get like your degree, but you're also just there to learn about being an adult to your adult, about skills that you're going to take into post-college life. And so I love that. And I think, how can you think about, again, those varying levels of education? A lot of us feel very much boxed into this, like, we're going to host a program and it's going to be mandatory for everybody. I'm giving you permission to stop doing that. If you want to say on Tuesday night, we're going to have a program for freshmen, on Wednesday night, we're going to have a program for sophomores. On Thursday night, we're going to have a program for juniors. And then next week, we're going to have a program for seniors. And do education that actually works for your dudes. Do that. If you're like, hey, not everybody has to come to this, but if you're interested in business, come out tonight. We've got an alumnus, right? Like, now, don't do something on business if nobody in your chapter is interested in business, right? That's not smart because then nobody's going to come. But try to pick out topics and areas that your guys are really interested in. We have a brother, right, in ZBT who's like a robotics teacher. And so how can you reach out to ZBT staff and say, hey, we've got dudes who are interested in XYZ. We don't have an alumnus from our chapter that is in this field. Do you all know anybody? And we'll be like, heck yeah, let us connect you to this alumnus from another chapter or this non-ZBT who's a friend of ZBT who could come in and teach that to you all. So Owen, I appreciate the comment because I think this is going to become like your bread and butter is the educational programming. So absolutely. Other thoughts or questions about anything I just said?
Hi, Christina.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey, how are you? I'm
Good,
Person
how are
Mission
you?
Anthony. So, what my chapter is very interested in is actually we're all very business minded, and we all seem to have got into investing at the same time. And since it's our field, we're pretty knowledgeable in it. So, what the majority of brothers I have in my chapter are doing are providing advice on how everyone is actually going through a very tough financial time. Like everyone experienced some kind of, decrease in income or difficulty at home. So what some of the brothers are doing is giving out advice where you can go, where you can get benefits from, stuff to help them out, things like that. And that's actually drawing a large audience on IG and all kinds of social media.
I love that, Aaron. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So Aaron is with the Delta Side chapter, right, Aaron?
Yes, Delta Pi.
Okay. Oh, Delta Pi, yes. I was like, I know I think I'm messing up the second one. That's VT, but at FDU Metro. And so, Aaron, I appreciate what you're saying because I think that that's something that is also good publicity for you all, right? Like a good way to sell the ZBT experience as well. It's giving you all something to do that you can rally around and that, feels that you all are comfortable and confident in, but it also gives you a way to say, and this is what ZBT is all about. So awesome. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
And also, Aaron, as well, if you guys do need alumni or even some of our brothers that are really interested in investing in finance, we have somebody that is on our finance committee from the Supreme Council that was talking with brothers about finance and getting into these groups. And this is what he teaches as a professor. If you ever need that, just reach out to Christina or I, and we can get you connected. Because the more times that you can get in front of somebody that has this professional experience, the more that you're going to learn. So I just wanted to throw that one out there as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anthony. I think my chapter would be really interested in that.
Awesome. Just reach out.
Okay, so Owen, Aaron, thank you for what you shared. Let's talk a little bit about maybe things that you've already done that have been successful. So Owen talked a little bit earlier about Kahoot or Jackbox. Are there any things that we did not already talk about, whether we were talking about virtual or in-person stuff that you're like, hey, Christina, we did this thing and it was super awesome. What are your thoughts? Feel free to unmute, drop it in the chat. We'd love to hear it.
I think one that comes to mind that was really funny, we did a little while ago. I think it was now last or 2 semesters ago. We had this little thing on IG where we went, I think every week or so, we would throw up a pair of 2 brothers on IG and we would have people just rate which one you'd like better. So we all chose bros that were cool with it, and it was something just really funny to do and mess with each other about. And in the end, one of the bros won. We had a little thing for him.
Okay. So, okay. But there are also other ways you could do that too, right? Like if you put up 2 brothers and it was like, how many people can they get to follow your Instagram or, whatever, like if you created competitions between brothers. So absolutely. I love that concept. Thank you, Aaron. Zachary, I saw that you also unmuted. What do you want to share?
I was just going to share that last night. We've been reaching out to our campus community for them to provide us resources with educational events, because that seems like what a lot of the San Luis Obispo community would like to see from Greek life. So we've been reaching out to our campus and asking them for resources. The one we had yesterday was SAFER, which is all school organization that deals with sexual assault and has that open discussions on topics like that, and allowing our chapter to have a safe space to talk about a pretty touchy subject has been incredibly helpful for us, and letting all the brothers know that those type of discussions are okay and that it's good for us to be having them as men and stuff like that.
Awesome. Thank you, Zachary. other things that you all are doing that have been successful? Aaron, Zachary, thank you. What I'd like to hear now is what we talked about: challenges, concerns, worries in the beginning. What are your challenges, concerns, worries now? What have we talked about tonight that you've been like, that's a good idea, we didn't think about that? So again, feel free to unmute or drop comments in the chat.
Okay, so one of my more serious concerns would be considering that my chapter is and has been, still is, very social. We usually use social media platforms just to post about what we're doing when we're doing it. But to get really one-on-one in person with PNMs, it's going to be much more difficult to do that in an online setting where you can't, have the body language, eye contact, and, in person, really conversation.
Yeah, and I'll say a bit, and then Anthony can jump in as the recruitment person. So here's the truth. The reality is right, we're going to have some potential new brothers or members that maybe don't have access to a camera or those kinds of things. But if they do, you will learn to adapt those skills to read body language, verbal and nonverbal cues, just like you did in person. And let me tell you why I say that, Aaron. I think I had that same concern. When COVID hit, we had an investigation that I had to do virtually, and I was like, how am I going to do this? I'm not going to be able to see the guys. I'm not going to be able to see how they're feeling, if they're shifting, whatever. Now that I've been on approximately 6,024,000 Zoom calls, you just start to pick up on it, right? And so I think really that's what you're looking for, is how to kind of pivot, right? Kind of reformat our brains to think about, okay, how do I pick up on that same stuff virtually? But then here's the other thing. When we're in person and we're doing recruitment, we're like, how's the weather? Like, what sports do you play? Like, we're just having these, like, really basic, random conversations. Now is such a better opportunity to be like, Anthony, tell me what you're passionate about. Like, why do you want to be in CBT? What interests you about fraternity life? And like to actually have real life conversations that are important to be able to understand if this guy's going to be a good fit for ZBT, right? And that doesn't mean giving him a hard quiz like, what does brotherly love mean to you, right? But just rather like, tell me about you, instead of just you as a student and going through this fraternity process. So I think that's one of the big ones too. And Aaron, to your point, if you're worried about, typically you would use your social events or your social media platform to kind of put the word out there. You can take a screen grab of the Zoom calls that you're having, the educational programs that you have. You could do a screen grab right now of what you see on the screen and say, Delta Pi engaged in a program tonight about building brotherhood, or whatever it is. I know that feels weird because it's different, but that's like kind of where we're moving to, as unfortunately a society, until this is over. But Anthony, I'll let you add any other thoughts as well.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that I really want to go on is that what Christina said was very much about our conversations. And I want you guys to also think about the idea that we always are told people join people. And that's not necessarily what we want to see. We want to see men of quality, men that respect our values, joining our fraternity, being a part of it because of what we do and the values we hold. Of course, we have the personalities, they're joining it to hang out with us. That's an amazing portion of it. But just thinking that a person's going to join because one other person and it's because of them needs to be out of our minds. And this virtual space really allows us to, like Christina was saying, get in there and learn more about that individual with better conversation. When it comes to recruitment on Zoom, if you do have to be fully virtual, the breakout rooms and the way that we have those conversations are huge. Like Christina said about the investigation, I did a Brotherhood membership review with the chapter all online, which was tough, like, or at least I thought it was going to be. After I did the first couple interviews that I had, it was as if I was in person with them. I just was in a safe physical distance of some odd 1,000 miles or so. But one of the other aspects of this is if you're in a hybrid system, if some of you guys are doing, we can have 5 of our men be able to meet 5 of their men, or whatever works like, contact me, contact Christina that will get you in contact with me. We can find a system that works specifically for your chapter. This is a part of our role, is to make sure that you guys are being successful. So if that is a committee call once a week with us and your recruitment committee to make sure that you guys are doing the best thing possible, we're going to make some time, we're going to make some room, and we're going to make it sure that you guys are being great. Because we're here, we're not making the big bucks. I don't have a driver outside in a helicopter waiting for me. We're doing this because we are passionate about the values and passionate about the men that we have in this organization. And so let us help you guys promote that passion to those potential new brothers.
I also think there's this belief that nobody's going to want to join fraternity or sorority in COVID. And I think our big pushback as an industry has been there's no better time to join fraternity and sorority because a lot of the other organizations on our campus, y'all, don't have the infrastructure to stay alive and like still be active and doing things in the time of COVID. And so a lot of students are going to be looking for a space to build community, and fraternity can be that if we get out of our own way. Because right now we're in our own way saying, well, we don't want to do it this way. We don't want to be virtual. Welcome to life as we know it right now. So how can we like put our best foot forward and trust that we can do it? So, but Aaron, thank you so much for that comment. Other folks, what are your concerns? What are your challenges? What are your worries? What questions do you have? Again, feel free to direct message us or unmute yourself. Okay. Anything else? Is there anybody that wants to share a good idea or an idea that they have that they're not sure if it's good or bad and they want to like float it with people? We're happy to hear those kinds of things as well. The last thing that I will ask while we have just a couple of more minutes is if everybody, hopefully you're at your computer and you don't just have your computer on, but if you could come back to your computer if you're not there, drop a thought in the chat, something, a takeaway that you're having from tonight, whether it's like, hell yeah, we're gonna do this, or we need to think about this a little bit more, but we might be interested in this. If you're an advisor on the call, feel free to say, you know, what we missed or what something that was good. But if everybody could take a second to drop a takeaway in the chat or a question that they still have, we will give everybody a second to do that. And there are 13 people on this call. So as close to 13 responses as we can get to, we'd love to see. Thank you, Bryce. Likes the philanthropy Twitch stream idea. Yes, love that. Thank you. Other thoughts? Okay, Jackson says, in our chapter, a lot of the brothers love poker And the legal gambling in Ontario, Canada is legal age for gambling in Ontario, Canada is 19. Most of our brothers are 19 plus, and I set up an online tournament on Poker Stars, and the brothers loved it. This could be an idea for the brothers 21 plus in the US. Absolutely. Thank you, Jackson. And if you don't want to do like full-on gambling, you can still probably just play regular poker games in like a virtual space. So thank you. Jerry, Rate a Brother Instagram campaign, investing advice group, yes. Online poker group, small in-person events, video game chat rooms, yes, Jerry. Oh, and there's already the stigma with fraternity life that it is just buying friends. I worry that this will only become a more common thought of Greek life if people start to join just because they have no other orgs to get involved with. Yeah, oh, and no, I think your comment is on point. I think the reality of it is it's not about joining just any org, but it's about finding a space to be able to build community, and fraternity and sorority offers that. So I think the reality is that we're going to see a lot of people who didn't think about fraternity and sorority because they were like, oh, fraternity and sorority is dumb, or oh, they're like this, or oh, they pay for their friends. And now they might say, okay, well, that's a community that is still there and present and adding value, right? Because that's the thing, right? That's our goal, is to provide value. And if we can provide value, y'all, and not throw parties, that's huge. Like, that's what the world is actually asking for us to do, is stop being problematic and stop hurting people. And if we can do that and provide value, we've done what we've, been asked to do. And so, and I think your point is so important, but I think it's really more so about how does fraternity and sorority provide community, and how are people actually going to get an opportunity to see that this year if we do it right. Henry, I learned that even though being online will change a lot of our day-to-day life, it does not have to change our brotherhood. And now is a time where we need brothers more than ever. Henry, yes, I love this comment. Now more than ever, you need brotherhood, because a lot of us are being cut off from our communities. And so to kind of intertwine Owen and Henry's comments, like, if we're being cut off from a huge part of our community, how can we give that community back to our guys? Aaron, improvise, adapt, and overcome. Yes, a motto that he's been told in the military career comes to mind. Regarding the change in standard operating procedure for my chapter, I feel much better prepared to give them the push they need. Aaron, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Tyler, I really like the idea of staggering events and doing virtual events such as an esports league, and then providing backup plans if a COVID situation gets worse with the majority of our school students returning. Absolutely. So I think just to reiterate on that point is that, let's say something else happens that's very drastic with COVID and everybody ends up going back to their respective homes, trying to continue to connect in the virtual space. Because here's what happens is the 25 of you and your brothers go home, and then you totally stop talking to each other. People get disengaged. People's mental health starts to decline. We're not checking on each other. And if that happens, I always recommend doing like a calling tree. So me, Anthony, 2 other people, we each get 5 names, and we make sure that we're calling everybody, instead of saying, hey, brother president, call everybody in this chapter every single day to check in on everybody. How can we give each other buddies to check in on? And so thinking about those kinds of things as well. But absolutely. Zach, I agree the Twitch stream is a great idea, and I like the investment group idea. Absolutely. We also do in-house informal video game tournaments as much as possible, so brothers are hanging out together instead of just playing video games in a room separately. Yeah, and how can you do that virtually too in the event that something happens? Video games are cool, I think, kind of from all over. And so I think that's really helpful. To Aaron's really cool idea that he shared with us about the investment group idea, if none of your dudes are good at investment, that's fine. What is something else that a group of Azibs in your house or chapter are good at? And how can you like sell that, good advice that you have or good experiences that you've had, and kind of market the really cool things that your brothers are doing? And so even if it's not all investment, how can your brother who really cares about equity and inclusion, spend some time talking on your Instagram? How can your brother who really understands finances and investment spend a day on the Instagram talking about that, whatever it may be, but doing those things from your Instagram to kind of promote the brotherhood and the different things that you all are great at. Anthony, any final thoughts from you that you would like to share with the group?
Yeah, just one, especially what popped out to me was the people are joining fraternity for friends. And that goes back to that comment of people are joining people just to join the people. If you look at our organization, brothers, and how we were founded as an organization to allow people in that were not allowed into other organizations, we have that social responsibility aspect. If you guys are doing events that are actually showing value of social responsibility, intellectual awareness, integrity, and brotherly love, that shows from you guys. So like Christina said, that is not buying friendship, that is creating a community. That is creating a family with those lifelong bonds. I can tell you, especially through my experience, doesn't matter if you're from my undergraduate chapter or all the way in Charleston. I have made lifelong friends because of this community and because I try to adapt, like when I was younger, of course, try to adapt myself to these values and how I should be living my life. And I think that's something that you need to be putting in your educational programs and things that you need to be doing with your events is looking at our values, looking at our credo, looking at our initiation, really finding those items and pushing those out. That's really my last thought. Also, I'm going to drop mine and Christina's email in the chat as well. If you guys do have any questions for either of us, for both of us, just shoot us an email. It's Christina Carl. It's like Carl, but with a P. I stole that from you. And Anthony. Yeah.
And I will go back and feel free to start dropping off if you'd like. We're wrapping up for the evening, but I'll go back to this slide just in case anybody wants to take a picture of it. And then in a couple seconds, I will also flip to the in-person slide if you'd like to take a picture of that as well. But thank you for you all who have been here tonight. We're happy to connect with you afterward. And we hope everybody has a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.